We've been talking about the state of matric exams here in South Africa. We've just been speaking to the Department of Basic Education, reporting some challenges, but not insurmountable, they say. Mugwena Maluleke is the General Secretary of the South African Democratic Teachers Union. He joins us now to share his views. Mr. Maluleke, thank you so much for taking the time. I know you've been listening into some of that conversation that we're having with Mr. Mhlanga. So just your response to that, are you in agreement with broadly what he said?
Good evening, Tsepiso, and good evening to your viewers at home, and thank you for having us. There are some areas that where indeed we share the same sentiments with the Department of Education, especially on the call that the communities and those who are involved in protest action to really help us to allow these particular learners to write and be willing to be engaged so that we can find some amicable solutions because we agree with the Department of Education. The 13 years of the studies by these particular students and the devastation by COVID in 2020 has really created a problem for these learners in terms of the deficit in terms of your competencies, the skills and the knowledge that these particular learners were supposed to be having. And hence we want to thank the teachers for having been there and making sure that they sacrifice their time and their families and making sure that afternoon classes are there as well as evening classes. And obviously we see them sleeping in schools during the weekend, and they continue to be in the camps, some of them, to help the students and so forth. And clearly it is a call that we support. SANCO has made a call at the beginning of this particular examination as a civic movement to say, can the communities really suspend their action? But even if they were not to suspend their action, what we are saying is that they need to be able to allow the teachers and the students to write while they are waging those particular struggles to get whatever demands that they put to municipalities or to government. But we are saying, not the children, allow the children to write.
All right, so you qualified your response initially by saying you are in agreement with some, so I'd imagine it means that there was some of what Mr. Mhlanga said that you were not in agreement with. Please share with us why. Mr. Maluleke?
Yeah.
All right.
Yes, so what we can say is that in areas like your blackout, the issue for us is not about the blackout affecting the learners during their examination. The anxiety level is rising, and therefore we cannot afford to have these particular learners going through this mental health problem, especially because they have got to revise, they have got to study in the evening. And we see that ESCOM from time to time will be, declaring a stage 2, which runs from 4 o'clock in the afternoon up until 5 o'clock in the morning and continues like that. The issue for us, Tsepiso, is that when you understand education, you will really appreciate the fact that any student who gets to be disrupted in terms of their revision, it does not only affect the paper they're going to write in 3 days' time or tomorrow. It impacts on the emotional status of that particular learner. It's a mental issue, and therefore we are supposed to be seeing the department appreciating that and really stepping up issues of psychosocial support in order to mitigate these particular unfortunate program of ESCOM, because whilst we may not be able to stop the blackouts, we need to be able to empower the learners through psychosocial services to continue doing whatever they can be doing. We also do not agree that the learners who are affected by any form of disruption that they did not write, therefore they must be subjected to rewrite in 2023 in May. That is not acceptable to us, and therefore we want the minister, as the minister said, that they will be flexible, that particular flexibility, we must see it practically, so that these particular learners are not subjected to any delay in terms of their future.
The flexibility you would accept from them is that these learners should not be forced to rewrite. Is that what you're saying, Mr. Maluleke?
No, what we are saying is that if they miss an examination, because contingency plans are there with the second paper, so each and every paper has a contingency paper. These learners who were not able to write on a particular day because of the protest action, they must reschedule the writing this year in order to write that particular second paper, which we call a contingency paper, so that they also receive their results come the 9th of January 2023. That is the flexibility that we're looking at, because honestly speaking, these learners have been devastated and they will be terribly, terribly traumatized if you were to subject them to write in May as if they are rewriting a supplementary examination. It is not their fault. It is not the fault of the school, and therefore they have got to be afforded an opportunity this year to write. It's not an ideal situation, so to write after you have been writing and then all of a sudden you go and write again. The issue here is that you have got to understand that we are living in a situation where these things are happening, and they're happening in our country. I would have wished that in countries that are engaged in war, our parents can go and see how those particular countries are doing everything they can to ensure that their learners are writing examination, despite the fact that there are bombs that are shelling on those particular communities.
Mr. Maluleke, just going forward, the kind of challenges that you've already seen, we spoke about the fact that crib notes, whether accidental or not, is still a struggle that the various exam centers are dealing with. And just COVID-19, Mr. Mhlanga says the schooling system has done its very best to make sure that those who are writing are adequately prepared, including the camps that matriculants have been dispatched off to so that they can, refresh as best as possible. But what do you think the kind of support and the challenges that these matriculants are facing?
Well, they're facing a myriad of challenges as the learners, given the fact that whilst the department has tried to do everything they could to afford these particular learners opportunities, the issue and the reality we're living in is that in 2020 and 2021, these grade 10 learners, today grade 12, were attending a rotational timetable. And in a rotational timetable, we have seen the schools that are not well off in terms of resources. Some of the learners were attending once a week, and some were attending twice a week, and that we cannot say is enough. What we have seen the teachers doing, however, in order to ensure that they prepare these particular learners, was them too making sure that they no longer have evening. These learners were taught in the evening, they were taught afternoon, they were taught early hours of the morning and weekends and so forth. So we need to say thanks and be grateful for our teachers who continue to be improvising, to be sacrificing what they are doing. Because to just say that these learners, we prepare them and so forth, it can't be true, because we know that it is not mechanical for learners to just all of a sudden be ready for themselves. They needed somebody to be there, and those teachers were there for them. And clearly it is that we want to encourage them and motivate them moving forward to then say, yes, we appreciate that there is one of those particular special classes in our history that they have to be impacted upon by the devastation of COVID, and therefore they are ready in terms of writing this examination. Hence, we want to eliminate any form of anxiety that is undesirable and that can be prevented, so that whilst they are dealing with those particular issues that they've built resilience on, we should not create new things that can create problems for our learners.
Well, thank you so much for speaking to us. Really appreciate it. That is SADTU's Mugwena Maluleke.